Hello, Mindful Music Muffins, and today's video is going to be all about how to help a friend with depression. It can be hard to know how to help a friend with any mental illness, including depression, so I thought I'd put together some tips on how to take care of them, how to help them, and yes, so I'm going to just stop waffling and get in with tip number one. Tip number one is to remind them that they're not alone. Depression can be very isolating and you can feel like that no one cares and that you're all alone even if you're not. So I think it's important to just let them know that sometimes. No, send them a message just to say hi, let them know that you've thought of them, or just, anything just to remind them that they're not alone. Even tell them that every so often, because like I said, it can be very isolating, and that is an important reminder that people with depression need sometimes. So yeah, you're not alone, people. If you're watching this, you're not alone, and I love you. Okay, I'm being weird. I'll just move on to the next one. Tip number two is to talk to them about it, but not to force them to. Of course, it's important to have a dialogue about their depression and not be afraid to bring it up and not be afraid to talk about it with them, because talking about it can be very helpful. But at the same time, if you ask them to talk about it and they say they don't want to, it's nothing personal, and you should just respect that and not pressure them. If they don't want to, then they don't want to, and pressuring them is just going to make them feel worse. So you're better off just, respecting their wishes if they say they don't want to. But I think offering to talk to them about it is important, because then they know that you care and they know that you want to help them, rather than doing nothing and then they might end up thinking that you just don't want to help or something. I think it's important to make that offer, whether they accept it or not. Tip number three is to check on them every now and then. So if you maybe don't hear from them for a while, or even if you do but you just want to be sure they're okay, check on them, let them know that you've thought of them and that you want to make sure they're okay. And of course, if they say they're not, be there for them and talk to them and whatever they need. But I think it's important to just let them know that you're thinking about them, and if you've not heard from them from a while, especially, then obviously you can't be sure whether they're okay or not. Everyone needs that sometimes. Everyone needs someone to ask them if they're okay sometimes, so that they feel like that they're cared about and that they matter. And I think it's just a good thing to do anyway, just, make sure that your friends are okay and stuff. I'm sure you do that anyway, but yeah, check on them every now and then. Tip number four is don't stop giving them compliments even if they don't accept them. It can be very frustrating when you give your friends compliments and they just don't seem to accept them. But just remember, it's nothing personal, and they probably do that to everyone because their view of themselves is so low and they don't see themselves the way you see them. But the only way that maybe they can change that, or at least the only way you can help them to change that, is to compliment them anyway. And at least then, even if they don't believe necessarily what you're saying, they will at least know that you care. Because if you just give up and stop complimenting them, they might think, oh my gosh, they've stopped caring about me or whatever. As frustrating as it is, I think it's important to keep saying nice things to them even if they don't necessarily believe that they're true, because they will eventually, and they'll probably thank you in the end for the compliments that you gave them, even though they were never accepted at the time. Tip number five is to be gentle and patient. Of course, the last thing you need when you're dealing with something like depression is to have someone be angry at you or just getting annoyed with you and the way you are, even though you can't help it. Even though it can be frustrating sometimes, I think the best thing to do is to just be gentle and patient and try and understand them. Even if it doesn't necessarily make sense to you or you don't really necessarily understand it, just be gentle and be patient. And I think that is the best approach you can take with things like this, because just shouting at them and stuff and getting frustrated isn't going to help anybody. It very rarely helps. Anger very rarely helps anyone in any situation. Tip number six, try to understand and listen to them. So if they open up to you and they talk to you about it, don't just brush it off and belittle them or invalidate their feelings. It's important to try and understand it, even if it seems irrational, and it can be good for them as well to just have someone to vent to. So it's important that when they do that, you try and just listen to what they have to say and not just dismiss everything, and to try and understand them so that they don't like feel weird and stuff, because the last thing they need is for them to be thinking, oh my gosh, my friend thinks I'm weird or whatever. Try and understand your friends. I don't know why I said it like that, don't ask. Tip number 7 is avoid saying things like, just choose to be happy. Those kinds of things don't really help anyone, and it doesn't really show an understanding of what depression is and how it works, because depression isn't a choice and you can't just choose to not be depressed anymore. So I think it's important to not say stuff like that to them, because then it makes them feel guilty, almost like they shouldn't be depressed, and obviously that's not what they need on top of how they already feel. Definitely avoid stuff like that. I think that would definitely be helpful. Tip number 8 is to try and encourage them to get out of the house or to do something, but don't pressure them. Obviously, if they get stuck in the house too much, maybe that might be negatively affecting their mental health, so you could try and encourage them to do a sport or a hobby that they love, or just to get out and see you or something like that. But obviously, if they say they don't want to do it, don't make them, like, don't pressure them or make them feel bad for not doing it, like saying, oh, you should be doing this or whatever, because that won't help. That will just make them feel guilty, and they don't need that. But obviously that encouragement is good. It shows that you care, and they might just agree to it, and then they may end up feeling better at the end of it. So it's worth trying, at least, even if they don't necessarily agree to it every time. And you never know, the more you try it, then maybe eventually they will agree. I think just a bit of gentle encouragement is sometimes what people need. Tip number 9 is to do some research. If you feel like you don't really understand depression and how it works, then obviously a good thing you can do is research it, work out, because then you can see how it affects their mind, how it affects their brain, their body, and you can just get a better understanding of what depression is, and you can understand them and how they feel better, and then hopefully that'll make it easier for you to help them, and maybe you'll bond more easily. Yeah, and it should hopefully avoid misunderstandings and misjudgments, miscommunications. Yeah, research is definitely a useful tool, especially with the internet and everything these days. You can find out almost anything. So I feel like most of the time ignorance is kind of a choice. I mean, obviously sometimes it's not, because you might not have access to internet, or you might be given fake information or whatever, but I think if you want to know about mental illness, you can look it up and find out for yourself. So research is good. And lastly, if in doubt, just ask how to help. If you're worried about doing the wrong thing or saying the wrong thing and you're not really sure how to approach it, just ask them what they need, ask them how you can help, and they will appreciate the fact that you asked. They'll know that you care, and because if you just do nothing because you're afraid of doing the wrong thing, they might think, oh, they just don't care about me, or they don't want to help. Whereas at least if you ask how to help them, they know that you do care, you do want to help, you're just not sure how to do it. And like I said, they'll appreciate that a lot. And hopefully then you'll know how to help them, because they'll have told you themselves how to help them, and then hopefully you won't make them worse or do the wrong thing, because they'll have told you what to do, and then it just makes things easier, I guess. If you really don't know, ask them. Just ask them how you can help, and all will work out. So anyway, that's it for this video. Hopefully it was helpful and I gave you some good tips. Hopefully you'll be able to help your friends better now, and you might be able to bond a bit more and not have this thing get in the way, and hopefully you'll be able to open up more of a dialogue about it, because mental health is something that should be talked about. It shouldn't be avoided because people are scared or don't know how to deal with it. That's why I think videos like this are important, because then people don't need to avoid it anymore, and it can be dealt with properly rather than just running away from it, because these things exist and we should act that way, and we should try and help the people that have to deal with it. But anyway, thank you for watching My Full Music Muffins. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to share the like button, some love, and if you want to see more videos, you know what you need to do. Obey the caution, and I'll see you next time. Love you guys. Bye.